Hey guys, welcome to the 30 Days to Learn Adobe After Effects course. My name is Vincent Nguyen, and today in this lesson we're going to be talking about tracking and stabilization within After Effects. So before we get started, I just want to say that tracking is a very important, crucial step for a visual effects artist. It's probably like the Swiss Army knife for compositors and visual effects artists because you do a lot of tracking. Almost every single shot you're going to need to do a track for just to composite elements into. And I'm going to try my best to explain this very complex topic in one lesson, and we'll be using After Effects built-in tracking abilities. Although there are very advanced programs that does tracking alone, so that kind of gives you an idea on how complex it can be. You have Mocha that comes with After Effects for 3D tracking and planar tracking, more advanced tracking. You have third-party plugins such as the Foundry's camera tracker. You have like Buju and a whole bunch of other applications that are meant for tracking, so it's a very complicated thing. I'll try my best to explain it to you in this lesson. So once again, I just have a footage of a vehicle driving by here, nothing too complicated. And let's say I want to composite some text into this scene here, and I want it to react to our vehicle here. So in After Effects, this is not a 3D scene. This is just simply a flat footage of a car moving. So how do we get things to follow along and match our scene here based on this fully flat layer here with no information? It's just a flat piece of footage. And that's where tracking comes in. So let's say I wanted to put some text on the hood of this car here, or this SUV or truck. Let's go ahead and create a new text layer. And we'll call it, I guess, Hit Me. And you would essentially, based on what you know so far, you would just create your text, you would align it up here, and then you would hit P on the keyboard and just keyframe this. And as you can see, it can be very tedious. We can move forward here, and then we can move forward again and readjust our text here. Move forward and just keep on moving our text until it kind of lines up with our vehicle. And it can be a very tedious process, and again, it doesn't look 100% realistic, and it's just a very tedious process to get exactly right. And then you would have to play around with the rotation and then the scale, because as you see, as our vehicle gets closer, our text should get larger as well. And it's a very tedious task, and this is the basics of the complexion and the problems for a compositor here. So to ease the process, we can do something called motion tracking, which is going to track the motion, and then we can use that data to attach our elements into the scene here. So rather than talking about it, let me just show you what I mean here. So I'm going to shut off the text for now, and let's just take a look at this footage. I want to bring up the After Effects tracking abilities, so let's go to Window, and then go into Tracker, and it's going to bring up the tracking panel for us to use here. So first off, it's asking us, what is the motion source, or what is the source that we want to analyze? In this case, it's our tracking plate. So now we just have our footage here, and now we want to track this thing. So in order to track something, you need a tracking point, and that's why in a lot of green screen footage you see a whole bunch of little tapes or tracker points, so that we can track the points and track the movements for a camera, so we can composite things a lot easier. So in this case, we don't really have any dedicated tracker points here, so we're going to need to improvise. I think two really good distinguishable points in this shot are these two little headlights right here. As you can see, these headlights stay in our footage the whole entire time. It's very distinguishable. We have a lot of contrast in these areas. So After Effects can use these 2 points here as a reference point. It's going to analyze these 2 points, and it's going to analyze and track the motion of these 2 points so that we can kind of get an estimate of the motion of our scene here. So in this case, we want to track these 2 points. Let's go ahead and go into the tracker here. But let me just select our layer here. And then we can select either track motion or stabilize motion. They kind of work the same way, but let me just show you what track motion does. So I'm going to hit track motion, and it gives us 1 track point. And this is just for the position. Usually you would want to do position and rotation unless you're on a tripod or something, or your footage is not rotating at all. In this case, our vehicle is somewhat rotating because we're kind of at an angle here, and we also want to check scale because we want to track the scale as well, because our vehicle is getting closer and these track points here are getting larger as well. So we checked all 3 of these boxes, but this may not be the case for you in your footage here, but it just all depends. So right now we have 2 tracker points right here, and we want to position these tracker points to our track points. So let's just move this track point over here to our first little light here. Now you have two little boxes here. The first box is the object that we want to track. So in this case, I want to track this whole little circular light here. So let's just track the whole entire thing here. And the second box is the region that it's going to look for at every single frame. So After Effects is going to analyze the footage every single frame, and every single frame it wants to look for this object here. So what is the area of region that it should search for? So for example, if I move forward here one frame, you can see that this object didn't move that much. So we don't need the area to be that large. We can just keep it kind of small because it's kind of staying relatively still in our case. So it's not moving that much per frame, so we can keep the area very, very small and tight. Okay, but if you have a lot of movement, then you may want to increase the look area. So every single frame is going to look in this big box area to find this little object here. So in this case, we don't have that much movement, so we'll just keep it kind of small. And the bigger your area of search is, the longer the render is going to take. So you may want to keep that in mind. So let's just move this track point right here to the second light. We'll increase the size, and then we want to increase the search region here, just like that. And the one thing I forgot to do in this lesson is to start at the beginning. You want to start at the beginning, but if you didn't, it's okay because we can always track backwards as well. So we're starting right here. Let's go ahead and hit Analyze Forward. And as you can see, our track points are stuck right onto our lights here, and that's what we want. We want the track points to be tracked properly. So as you can see, our tracker points here are actually sticking with our track points. So that's a good sign. Let's go back here. Let's just track backwards as well. And again, you can see that our points are staying stuck onto those lights, which is a really good thing. That means our track has no errors so far. So just like that, if you take a look at our tracker points here, you can see that they stick to our lights just fine. And that means that After Effects was able to analyze the motion of these two objects successfully. And so now we are ready to edit our target. So let's go ahead and create a new null object. And again, a null object isn't really anything special. It's just a placeholder layer here. Nothing more than just a layer used for reference. So we can call this one tracking data. And then we're going to apply all this data that we just tracked to our null object. So let's go to edit target. We'll set the tracker data to the tracking data layer here. Hit OK. And then we're going to hit apply. And then for the apply dimensions, we want X and Y. Hit OK. And this is known as 2D tracking. We're not actually tracking this in 3D space. If you're using After Effects CS6, you actually have the ability to track in 3D space. But in this case, this is a 2D tracker, and it's going to manipulate the object's properties so that it gives you the illusion that it is in our scene here. So just like that, our tracking data is in our tracking data layer here. And as you can see, our null is stuck onto our car perfectly. And we're going to use that null as a reference like I said before. So let's go ahead and turn on our text layer here. And I want to start at the beginning here. And I want to position this thing where I want it to be. So I'm going to make it a 3D layer just so that we can rotate it around a little bit. And I'm going to make some minor adjustments. Rotate it just a little bit. And then I'm going to raise it up. So just like that, we have our text composited into our scene here. But as you can see, it's not really following our car. So how do we get it to follow our car? Well, our tracking data here has our null attached to our car. So we can just parent or pick whip the text here to our tracking data. That means that our text right here is going to follow our tracking data, which is attached to our car based on our track points here. So as you can see, our text is following our null, and the null is following the car. So we have a really nice composited text in our scene. And as you can see, our text just follows our car just the way we wanted it to. So because we tracked the motion of the car, we were able to apply that same motion to our text. So the text is actually just mimicking the motion of our car here. And that is the basics of compositing in visual effects. You can do the exact same thing for applying set extensions such as, background play, or, there's a lot of things you can do. For example, here I have this fire element from the Video Copilot Action Essentials. And I'll talk more about third-party plugins and products and stuff like that in lesson 29 of this course. But this is just an example here. So this is footage of some flames here. I'll set the transfer mode to add. And let me just show you how you can use tracking data to composite elements into your scene here. So I'm going to shut off the hit me text. That was just a very simple example. I'm going to scale this footage down a little bit. And I'm going to try my best to composite it into the car very, very simply here. So maybe just something like that. And so as you can see, we have some basic flames on our car here. And then once we parent that flame element to our tracking data, it's going to follow our car based on the position, rotation, and scale here. So if I just do a quick RAM preview, you can see that our flames are actually sticking onto the car. It's rotating properly with the car, and it's scaling up with the car as well as it gets closer. So this has just been a really basic overview of tracking and how they're very, very useful in visual effects world and the compositing world. There's so much more to talk about, but this has just been a really rough overview of using tracking within After Effects and applying it to Null to hold all that data. And if you want to stabilize motion, it's exactly the same thing. Use tracker points and such like that. So really basic overview. In the next lesson, we're going to be talking about the basics of motion graphics. We'll do some basic animation to show you guys some things you can do in a real life project. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you guys have any further questions, don't hesitate to leave me a message in the forums, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. And once again, guys, my name is Vincent Nguyen, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson. Bye, guys.